Frank, I understand that you were one of the young men called up when in the late 60s, early 70s into national service. How was that for you? What was your experience of that?
It was the late 60s. It was a big shock. It was something I was dreading because it was a possibility, and I guess the army was the very last thing I'd ever anticipated joining. But I realised that there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't feel strongly enough to become a conscientious objector, so I just decided to make the best of it. And I think with that frame of mind, I managed to get through the 2 years reasonably well.
I was wondering that the experience of being in Vietnam, that must have been a really bonding experience for you and the people that you were with. Is that so, and has that lasted?
I think that for me, because I'd had the latter part of my secondary education involved being at boarding school, I think the 3 years I was at boarding school probably prepared me better for the national service experience than some of my colleagues. And so I adapted reasonably well to being in that environment. And I formed very good friendships and a couple of very close friendships. And one in particular, the whole time I was in Vietnam, I guess sustained me through that experience. And I think that for some others, it was perhaps more difficult. And of course, there was also the distinction, not always that apparent, but there all the time, between us as national servicemen and the regular soldiers. We all got along very well, but there was a distinction.
Yes, I can imagine. Frank, when you finished your service in Vietnam and came back to Australia, speak about the reception that you had and how it was adjusting to that when you came back.
Well, I think it's well known that we weren't exactly welcomed back, and that was pretty obvious as soon as I had returned. I didn't necessarily find that a particular experience for myself, because I immediately got back into the routine of friends and social activity. I went straight back to my previous employer, but I was certainly aware that having been in Vietnam was not something that was universally celebrated or welcomed. And I think it was part of the reason why within 6 months I left Australia and I headed back to Asia. I think I'd got Asia in my blood, and I had an opportunity to go back and work in Vietnam in shipping. But because I had served there, I was unable to get a visa. And so, because I'd had 5 days R&R in Hong Kong, I thought, well, I'll go back to Hong Kong, where I did and worked for an American electronics company, and I was there for maybe 18 months. And so the whole world, a new world opened up to me, and I think that helped me sort of get over the Vietnam experience, perhaps more rapidly than other people who didn't have that distraction and escape that I had.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Frank, that for a number of people coming back from Vietnam, the experience was quite harrowing. And even when it wasn't just the situation, they have suffered from mental health problems when they got back here.
Yes.
Would you like to comment on that?
I think that's been very prevalent with a lot of men, but not only out of Vietnam. That continues to be from every theatre of war before and since. And I think that that it's something that has been finally acknowledged more fulsomely than it was in the early days after Vietnam. I think Veterans Affairs now are very much involved in a whole range of programs to assist people who have those sorts of issues, and the level of care and assistance is quite significant now. I've not experienced that situation with people I know, but I'm aware of others that have suffered quite extremely. I do follow a number of veteran Facebook pages, and I read some of the commentary that comes through those, and it's very evident that you know, some of my veteran colleagues are still living the war in great detail, which I find quite amazing in terms of what they do remember, because life moved on in a big way for me, and I can't go back and recall the intricate detail that some of those fellows do.
I wondered if you, as a returned service person yourself, would like to talk about what you see as the significance of ANZAC Day and its significance to our community and our young people.
Okay. Well, look, I think ANZAC Day has certainly cemented itself in the sort of national picture as the big iconic event that everyone can rally around, that brings out this sort of sense of patriotism. It can be quite jingoistic, I think, in this day and age. I think that you can find that ANZAC Day will bring out the flag waving, that will help people feel that they're saluting the flag, saluting the patriotism. But once it's over, then they move on for another year. So I'm a little bit cynical sometimes of the way ANZAC Day is treated in a sort of the total population, and not to disrespect the way many people regard the event. To me, it's a very important day. I think it's pretty important for Vietnam veterans because it after the welcome home parades that occurred around in the mid-80s, I think there was relief amongst Vietnam veterans that finally they were being recognised, and that ANZAC Day was seen as an opportunity to reinforce that recognition and heal the hurt that they experienced after their initial return from Vietnam. So ANZAC Day is quite significant and important, and this ANZAC Day is going to be really very strange in terms of not having the ability to gather together and go through the ceremonies and recognise the experience and commemorate what occurred in the way that people traditionally do. But with technology and a range of other innovation, it seems that there'll be opportunity to still recognise the importance of the day.
Will you be doing anything yourself, Frank?
I'm not sure what's going to be available. I understand here in Daylesford that the church bells will be rung at around 6 a.m. in lieu of the dawn service. Now, the dawn service I would always go to, so that'll be good. I read that Australian Chamber Orchestra are doing their Gallipoli, they're rebroadcasting online their Gallipoli event, which is something that I saw a couple of years ago, and that's very significant in terms of remembering ANZAC and ANZAC Day. But beyond that, I'm not sure what the day might hold for me.
Well, I hope you spend it in good company, Frank, and perhaps might see you around soon in person instead of just on the screen as we are today.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.